My name is Joe Reichert. I'd like to welcome you to an episode of Saab Doctor DIY. Today we're going to be going over how to replace the struts, springs, and end links on your 2003 through 2011 Saab 9.3 sedan or your 2004 through 2011 9.3 convertible and all sport con. Stay tuned. Okay, first step is to remove the sway bar end link. These are going to get replaced, so they may end up getting cut off depending on how this goes. Now, all of them will have some type of wrench fitting in the back. These are aftermarket ones. I'm not 100% sure what the stock size is. I actually like starting with the bottom. And yeah, if these have been in for a while, they're definitely going to turn. So, that is where you want to make sure you have the right size wrench for that inside portion. For these particular ones, a 15 happens to fit the best. So at this point, a lot of people will just end up giving it the big old heave-ho, cutting them off. I'm going to use the power of air. Alright, that wasn't that bad. These I actually put on a few years ago. My trick to end links is you get the ones from your local parts store because they have a lifetime warranty, they're not that expensive, and they always go bad regardless of what brand you get. I mean, this one, it's only 2 years old. It's already bad. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to remove the hose hold down because the Bilsteins actually have this piece built in. And then I'm going to remove these two bolts, so that'll completely loosen up the strut. Then we take the top 3 bolts off the mount off. Pull the hose out of the way. So there's the wheel speed sensor clip hold down. Underneath it, you just squeeze that gently and pull it out of the way. So those are both out of the way. So now you can take these 2 nuts off. Alright, now on the bottom one, you're not going to want to take the nut all the way off because what you're going to need to do, and you really don't want to take all the way off for the top one either, especially if you're going to reuse these bolts, which you technically aren't supposed to, but we're going to on this one. So what I always do is I take these, I put the socket back on, grab an extension, grab a hammer, and just tap them out. So the reason why you have to tap those out is because they have these splines in them that actually holds it together. Then take the top one, and actually at this point, pull this bracket out of here. Take the top one, and this one, because you have full access to it, you can just tap. Just make sure you don't hit your brake line or anything. And the bottom side is good. This is all loose. Okay, this is actually the easy part. You just take these 3 bolts out, you put your hand underneath to support. And I just loosen these up a little bit. I don't take them all the way out because you just want this to kind of lower down slowly. Now this is a stock mount, so it has a 13mm drive on it. So as you can see, this is starting to loosen up a bit. So when I just maybe pull one out slowly. Alright, and now this is loose, so just take her out. Okay, This is the point in the video where I have to tell you to practice extreme caution when doing this. What I'm pulling out right now is my spring compressor. This is a Lyle McPherson strut tool number 62300. If I can find this, I will put a link in the description below. I like this particular one because unlike a lot of the other tools, this has actual U-bolts. I want to remind everybody that when you're undoing a spring and you're putting a spring compressor on it, you're making that spring that much more volatile to hurt somebody. I have nicknamed this the Widowmaker for a reason, because you can truly get injured by doing this, so please, practice extreme caution. I probably should wear safety glasses. I'm not going to. I'd recommend you would. Say as I do, don't do as I do, or something. No, do as I say. I don't know, I'm not good with quotes. Anyways, I'm going to put the spring compressor out on the floor, and then we'll get the strut all taken apart. We'll take a look at it. Okay, so this is an OE shock with a Megan Racing spring on it. Put these springs on about 2 years ago. The coating's flaking off, but I'd expect that. They're cheap but pretty good springs. So the way this spring compressor works is you take one of these, you put it at the highest point you can. And they're actually labeled left and right. I just make sure the biggest thing is that you put it so the letter is facing the correct way and use the same letter on both sides. So I guess that would be using left and right as left and right. Now I don't snug these up until I put the connecting pole in between them. So once you get 2 in a row, take the actual compressor portion, put it through, make sure if you're using this particular one that there is a washer and you put this washer in, because otherwise you'll just mar up the tool. And you take this and you snug this down. I shouldn't say snug, you just get it till, there we go. Then once you do that, you can actually take these, snug these down as well. For final tightening on these, I'm actually going to use a wrench, but I'm going to do the other side first. Alright, now one thing you want to do before you snug it up, make sure that these two are on opposite sides of each other. That's the safest way. And then let me grab a wrench and we'll snug those up and then we'll get to work on this. Alright, that's all good to go. Now what you want to do is you want to try and crank this down evenly. The biggest thing you need to do is make sure that the spring is loose in here. You don't need to over compress it. Now this is where you cross your fingers. I'm actually, you can do any of this with obviously regular wrenches. I'm just using the impact to speed things up. I am going to hit this one with the impact though, hoping that it breaks it loose. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll end up using a vice grips on it. Sometimes you can just, if you're wearing like gloves like these, mechanics gloves, you can just put a little bit of tension on here and get this off. There we go. This mount is done. Good thing we have new ones. So the biggest thing with this is you want to make sure you have the boot and the bump stop. Those are the two things you're going to need. Obviously the spring, unless you're replacing the springs. If you wanted to just do a whole new assembly, you could just order the boot and the bump stop and the rubber isolators. Okay, with the Bilsteins, at least the ones I got, you want to make sure that you grab the right one for the right side. Because these have the bracket for the brakes and everything built into them. So you want to make sure that, you know, if you're grabbing it, that it mounts up right. So the one that I'm grabbing for this is the one for the left side because we're doing the driver's side. The way it'll mount up is it'll go this way, which is exactly the same way that our brake lines and everything were when we pulled it off. So this one will be good to go. What you could also do, if it doesn't fit, is cut this tab off. And you just cut it right off with a roto zip or something, and then you'd be able to bolt on the actual factory one, which I might take a look at this and see what I think of the two. So let's do that quick. Okay, this is the one on here. This is the factory one. It's very, very similar, but you know something? I actually think I'm going to cut this off. I don't like the fact that the ABS sensor won't be able to clip into here. So let's do that. Also, I'm pretty sure this is about to void any warranty that I had on these. So that kind of sucks, but it is what it is, I guess. All right, so we do a quick cut like that. Okay, now that I've cut the bracket off, we can use this one. Just remember, it does matter which side you use it on because of where the mount for the sway bar link is. So let's just get this thing all back together. This will be nice and easy. Okay, so when you put it back together, you want to make sure that the spring lines up in the spring perch area. So you just put that back in there. It's nice and easy. You want to grab your bump stop, which no longer fits. I guess with Bilstien B8s we don't get bump stops. This doesn't fit at all. So, strut mount, put the top on, put the bearing on, then you put the mount on. Then don't forget there is a washer that you need to put on. Then you put the washer on, then the nut. Okay, so the nut on the top of the strut actually changed from a 21 in the factory strut to a 22, which is perfectly fine. I'm going to take this, I'm going to give it a zip with the impact. We'll see how much that tightens it up. I'm also going to hold it on the, I'm going to hold the strut itself. Okay, and that actually tightened up nice and good. We remove the spring compressor next. Just remember, you want to take tension off each side a little bit at a time. Alright, now that that's done, I'm going to see if this cap fits. If it does, we're going to reuse it. It does. Alright, perfect. I always like putting those caps back on. One thing I'm going to say is, when we do the other side, we don't actually need to pull this bracket out. We can actually just leave this hooked on. I thought we were going to end up using the bracket that was built into here, but that's not the case. So back in with this. Nice thing is, it comes with brand new bolts for the mount. The one thing I'll say is I have seen it where these bolts are too long, so always pay attention when putting these mount bolts in. So one thing you want to watch when you're installing aftermarket strut mounts, this is the length of the stock strut mount bolt. This is the length of the bolt that Moog provides. As you can tell, quite a bit different. What the good thing is, this stock bolt will fit into Moog's strut mount. So you can actually use this if these are too long. I end up using these about half the time because these are way too long. The good thing is most of the time this bolt will actually clear the spring, but I'm going to try it out, we'll see how it fits, and if it's too long, we'll take it and we'll use these. Not a big deal. So let's get this strut in. Now, one of the things you have to remember is that these mounts have to be clacked a certain way to actually line up all 3 holes. Alright, it's all lined up. Let's see if these are too long. Yep, these bolts from Moog are actually hitting the they're hitting the spring. So we'll just pull this back out. And before I do that, actually, I'm going to pop one of the other stock bolts in. If I remember right, the actual torque spec for these is somewhere between 15 and 20 foot-pounds. Okay, so on this side, I'm going to end up putting this bracket back in, which is going to be super easy. But let's actually just get this lined up right here. This is not very hard. I always start grabbing a bolt. You want to make sure that the screw goes toward where the bracket is going to be. Then you just lift it right into place. Alright, so you want to make sure you put this bracket in before cranking these. And taking this bracket out, since I cut the one on the strut off, was unnecessary. Just for future reference. I will not be taking that out on the other side. At this point, I'm going to put back all of the things that I took off. The ABS sensor goes back, then the brake line. Do not forget this little tab, because this holds the brake line in place. Take it, line it up. Get a few taps. You don't need anything near this big, but struts in. Don't forget your end link. Let's put the end link in. For the sway bar end links, my trick is to grab whatever parts store brand you can get locally that has a lifetime warranty on it. So I always buy Master Pro ones because we keep our cars for a while. The ones that came out of here were Master Pro. This is actually the replacement one for this. So brand new in the box, bolt her up and go, and then I don't have to worry about it. The way I install these is a little bit different than the way I take them out. These actually have a 6mm hex in the middle, so I'm going to use a 6mm hex and a ratcheting wrench to put them on. I don't want to, over tighten them, screw them up that bad, but they do need to be put on there nice and tight. I'd like to thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Saab Doctor. Just remember, if you enjoyed this, if this was helpful for you, like, share, and subscribe, and Saab on, folks.